Well, here we are again, folks. We are in chapter 20 of the book of Proverbs. Beautiful book of knowledge. If you will take every day for the day and read before you leave in the morning a proverb, you will find it is a sustaining brook of life for you. It is the knowledge of the wisdom of the Word of God capitalized into one small area. 31 of these little proverbs, and they all contain the wisdom that you need on a daily basis. Divers weights, it says in verse 10, and divers measures, both of them are like an abomination to the Lord. Let me give you a little example. An example is this. Here's a man got a set of scales, and on that set of scales here, they are even. They are even. And the man, I did it in green and you can't see it. And they are even. And a man that would put a weight on the other side of the scales. He'd put a weight on the other side of the scales back in the olden days. And he'd put that weight on there, and it would bring that scale down a little bit. Well, there was a man selling butter. He was swapping it to a man for cheese. And each day he'd bring the butter over there. And one day the man brought the butter over there, and the man put it on the scales, and he put the cheese on the side. The man came over there and he said, "Hey, do you know, I feel like that your weight must be off. My cheese keeps getting smaller every day. What are you using for a counterweight?" And the man said, "I'm using your butter." So he was using the man's butter, and the man was skimping on the butter. So every day he began to notice the cheese was getting less, but it was getting less because his butter was getting less. And that's a diver's weight, or a diver's weight. My boy had been carrying metal to the junkyard recently, and the junkyard he'd been going to had been the machine that you drive over makes a printout. But when the man came out of the office, he had calculus written on a piece of paper. Said, "This is what you brought in, this is what you weighed and subtracted, and this is what you got, and this is what I owe you." Well, after 3 or 4 times of coming, my boy felt, well, I know I had more weight than that. And so he begins to look, and the fellow had his truck as much as 1,300 pounds more weight than the truck weighed when he came back across the scales. And each time the man didn't have good enough sense to know that he might compare those, and he had the truck weighing anywhere from 500 to 1,300 pounds more than it weighed coming back out after the first time he sold to him. So he last time he took a load, he found out the man was beaten. He took his truck, backed it back up, and he said, "Put my metal back on the truck." Took it down to another junkyard and got $130 more for it. So the man had been stealing from him anywhere from $80 to $130 every week when he took his junk in. So that is a abomination unto the Lord said, for that to happen, to be that way. And that's the way things are today in our tax world. It's an abomination in the United States of America, the way we are taxed. We are taxed. It's taxation without representation. I pay tax on the money when I get it, earn it, and I pay tax on it. I go to the filling station, I pay tax on it again by buying a gallon of gas. And then if I took that gallon of gas that I bought and paid tax on down the street and sold it, I would have to pay tax on it again to the government. So we are taxed. You know, we could take an item and buy it and handle it 5 times and pay more in taxes than we paid for it. And so that's where we are today. But let's not get into that. Verse 11, even a child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure and whether it be right. Even a child, common knowledge, that you can tell watching a person what they are, whether they're doing what they're doing is either right or wrong. You can tell by watching them. And you can tell by watching where we live today what is right and what is wrong without any kind of stretch of the imagination. It's so easy. Now another thing, verse 12. There are two created things. The hearing ear. Listen, have you ever seen an ear that was filled? No. The ear is never full of hearing. I'm telling you, my friend, the ear is never full of hearing. And the eye, the seeing eye of the Lord hath made both of them. The seeing eye of the Lord had made both of them. He made the ear and he made the eye. And I tell you what, the eye is never full of seeing and the ear is never full of hearing. It's what you do with it. After you see it or after you hear it. What you do with it is what counts. Now, verse 13. How to escape poverty. Woo! That's a good one. How do we escape poverty? Wow, that's a good question. It says, love not sleep, lest thou come to poverty. Open thine eyes, and thou shalt be satisfied with bread. Open your eyes early in the morning, he's saying here. Get up, get going, and you will be satisfied with the bread that you buy with what you make. I would be satisfied today, right now, today, myself, right now. I would go out today and work for somebody and be satisfied to come home with $30 after working 8 hours. As a matter of fact, I would feel good to do that. I've been going to a job making big money, but from the time I leave to the time I get back, I can be gone nearly 12 hours and only make about 7 hours a time and put $25 worth of gas in. And by the time I get done the end of the day, I've done good to make $40, $50 maybe max after everything's said and done. Now, and I'm happy. I'm happy. I am well happy, but I would not complain about that. I have too many friends right now. I have dozens and dozens and dozens of friends and people I know right now that do not have a job, cannot buy a job, cannot buy a day's work, can't even go out there and get one for $5 an hour. They can go tell somebody, I'll work for you for $5 an hour, and people say, I just can't do it. I don't have $5 an hour to pay you. And so they need work done, but they don't have the money either. So we're living in a very, very close day and age. And now look at this, verse 14. It is not, saith the buyer. But when he is gone his way, then he boasteth. Now, you go to sell something, and this guy says, nah, it's not worth that. No, I'm not going to give you that. Let's just say you got one coat, and it's a good coat, and that coat's really worth $100, and you need money and you need it bad, and you go to a man that has money and he's a buyer, and you say, I really absolutely need $50 out of this coat, and he said, well, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I'll give you $18, $20 for it. And then after you leave, he boasts to his compadre beside him, wow, I got a good buy on that. It's worth well over $50. I'm going to ask $75 for it. It's a good $100 coat. And I'm going to ask $75 for it. I did good. And the practice of that, the Bible said, it's a universal practice, but it's not a good one. It's a bad practice. Better than riches. All right, we're going to verse 15. There is gold in a multitude of rubies, but the lips of knowledge are more precious